have been a supporter of the Tibet cause now for 6 years, since I first went there in May of 2006 with the Foreign Affairs Select Committee. Lhasa is the most extraordinary place, and visiting the Potala Palace after having read so much about Tibet and the Dalai Lama was a truly amazing experience. After my visit in 2006, I became very involved with the cause of Tibet. And when I say the cause of Tibet, I mean the fact that the Chinese invaded Tibet in 1949, occupied Tibet, which had been an independent sovereign nation for centuries, and called it part of China. It still is part of China, it's an autonomous region. But in 1959, the Dalai Lama, the spiritual leader of Tibetan Buddhists, as well as the political leader of the Tibetan people, escaped, fled Lhasa in fear of his life. An assassination plot had been discovered. He went to northern India, to Dharamsala in Himachal Pradesh, where he's been living ever since with the Tibetan parliament and Tibetan government in exile. The Dalai Lama is an inspiring figure. He's a man who's not only the spiritual leader of millions of Buddhists worldwide, but somebody who spreads the message of compassion, forgiveness, peace and love amongst all humanity. The Dalai Lama, whose name is Tenzin Gyatso, calls himself just a simple monk, and he lives quite an ascetic lifestyle. I've had the privilege now of meeting him on seven separate occasions, both in India and in London. In fact, he came to Leeds on Friday the 15th of June to address the Yorkshire International Business Convention, and I was very proud of the fact that I was able to be part of getting him there to the city of Leeds. It was a privilege for us. However, it wasn't without controversy. The Chinese diplomats from the embassy in London came to the city of Leeds and threatened Leeds City Council with the withdrawal of Olympic training facilities that they had already booked a year ago for their Olympic team, unless the council withdrew the invitation to the Dalai Lama. This, of course, was in the press recently and caused considerable controversy. I don't blame the council for what they did. They had an economic imperative. They were faced with this sort of tactic from the Chinese, and although they couldn't withdraw the invitation, they did pull out of the convention. It's a shame, but nonetheless they were trying to act in the best interests of the city. The visit went ahead. The Dalai Lama addressed 650 business people who were present at the International Business Convention, and everyone I spoke to came away feeling a sense of calm, a sense of huge spirituality that the Dalai Lama emanates, but also, best of all I think, his sense of humour and his sense of modesty. It really was an extraordinary occasion, and I was privileged to be on stage with him. The Chinese government has also put pressure on the British government, so that when I organised a lunch for the Dalai Lama with the Speaker of the House of Commons on Wednesday the 20th of June, two government ministers who were very involved with the Tibetan cause and the Tibet Society were told in no uncertain terms, even though they were junior ministers not in the Foreign Office, that they may not attend the lunch. One was a Lib Dem, the other a Conservative. I think that's a great shame. I asked a question in Prime Minister's Question Time. The Prime Minister was absent in Mexico for the World Summit on the Environment, and so William Hague was conducting Prime Minister's Question Time. He's the Foreign Secretary. I asked him a question about the Dalai Lama's visit to London and to Parliament that day, and Tibetan human rights. Well, he answered the question well on Tibetan human rights, but failed to mention anything about the Dalai Lama. I think the British government is afraid of offending the Chinese, and that's a real tragedy. So this week, this last 7 days, I've had the privilege of spending 3 hours with His Holiness the Dalai Lama here in Leeds at the Yorkshire International Business Convention, both on the stage there and at a lunch held later. Then at the Royal Albert Hall on Tuesday, the 19th of June, where he addressed 6,000 people, and I was privileged to sit in the front row next to one of his great supporters, Joanna Lumley. And then the following day at a lunch in the Speaker's apartments for 30 MPs who are involved in the Tibet cause, followed by an address to 150 MPs and peers in Committee Room 14, which was extraordinary. The Speaker chaired the meeting, and the Dalai Lama was funny, he was spiritual, he was deep, his wit combined with the profound nature of his message, I think, made many people think carefully about the way they conduct their politics. It was a really excellent occasion. And then to cap my excellent week, my week of Nobel Prize winners, because the Dalai Lama won the Nobel Peace Prize, as well as the Congressional Medal of Honor in the United States, and then just last month in May, he won the Templeton Prize, which is a prize for an individual's contribution to human spirituality, worth £1 million. That was at St Paul's Cathedral. And the following day, that is Thursday the 21st of June, the longest day of the year, we were privileged to hear Aung San Suu Kyi, the Burmese opposition leader who's been imprisoned in her own country under house arrest for 18 years, addressed both Houses of Parliament assembled in Westminster Hall. What an extraordinary week it's been. Absolutely amazing. And that is a real thrill of being a Member of Parliament for Leeds North East.